My name is Elizabeth Follette, and I am the program advisor in charge of the Online Masters in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I'm delighted that you were able to join us today for this unique online information session with two of our current students on the program, Rahima and Tim Irwin. Rahima, can I ask you to briefly introduce yourself to our guests today?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rahima. I'm very happy to be part of this webinar today to share my experiences, tips, or maybe even advice with you. I will be also very happy to answer some of your questions. I'm project manager. I work for General Electric. I'm based in the US, and I have joined OMI last September 2017. So I belong to the first cohort of this program, and I will be graduated in June 2019.
Lovely, thank you. And Tim, can I ask you to briefly present yourself to our guests?
Sure. Like Rahima, I joined the program in 2017, and we'll be graduating or finishing in December and then graduating in June of 2019. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be part of the program. I'd love to share any insights I have and anything that can help you make your decision. This is a special program, and you'd be lucky to be part of it. So we look forward to giving a small presentation and answering any questions you might have.
Absolutely. So thanks to you both. Thank you so much for being here today. For our guests today, here's the agenda of today's webinar. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through a presentation with the main highlights of the program. So if you're new, if you've just heard about the Online Masters in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, this will give you really the main features of our program. And if you've been thinking about pursuing this program for a little bit, this webinar will enable you to gain the first-hand experience from our participants and to ask questions to them. So as you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, you've got a chat box and a question box. So I encourage you to use those features of the webinar and to ask your questions throughout this session. And Rahima, Tim, and myself will be happy to address these questions throughout the webinar. All right, so with no further ado, let's get started. All right, so here are the main features of our online Masters in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. As the name indicates, the program focuses on innovation and entrepreneurship. So helping you develop new products and services, and also looking to help you drive innovation and business development, both in a startup context or within an existing organization. Now, Rahima, can you share with us what were your objectives for, or what were your motivations for joining the OMI program?
With a traditional and a classic project management background, with the rise of digital technologies accelerating the pace of disruption in every industry, I came to a time of my career where I felt the need to discover new ways of thinking, of acting, build up an entrepreneurial mindset, develop a design-driven, creative thinking business culture, that fosters successful innovation. I really wanted to break free, from the ways things have always been done, to unleash my potential, to learn how to generate breakthrough ideas, to make real change to my organization while achieving better results.
Lovely, lovely. And Tim, what were your motivations for joining this program?
Some of them are similar to Rahima's. That I do have, I do work for a business, and I have some entrepreneurial goals, but I also have some entrepreneurial goals. I've been an entrepreneur in the past, and I would say on a smaller scale than maybe I would like. I have a number of projects, a pipeline of projects that I have no idea necessarily or limited idea of how to get them off the ground. And I think one of the things that we're often confused about, or maybe even somewhat deceived about in maybe the media is that you have a brilliant entrepreneur that just one day wakes up starts a billion-dollar business and that's it. And they've not had any help along the way. Well, I didn't think that was true, and I think that this program actually builds up all of the foundations underneath you that you really need to have success at it, because I think there are probably more people that have lost everything trying to just wing it than have become billionaires. So I think this is really a program to help you step by step, just like any other career choice you would take. An entrepreneur can have a roadmap, and I think this provides it. So that was the main driver for me.
Mm-hmm. And you both mentioned earlier that you were benchmarking other programs, that you were considering other programs. What was it about the online Masters in Innovation and Entrepreneurship that led you to come on board this program in particular?
For me, I looked at a number of other universities. There were programs at Stanford, there were programs at Boston University that I looked at, and a handful of others, but those were the ones I was more serious about. For me, I already have my base degree is in business. My background, I have a lot of R&D, and I have also a very strong finance background. So I didn't need another MBA. I didn't need another set of courses just in straight business for what I want to achieve. I really wanted something that focused on innovation and the pace of business now, because the pace is constant. Things are very much like a, they come into focus and out of focus very quickly. Things change a lot. And I wanted something that gave me an education relevant to that kind of structure, because again, I think that's the business world we're in now.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Yeah, that was exactly the same thing for me. Of course, I have considered other programs, but OMI for me definitely was like the most complete program, the best tailored, that includes like everything from strategic management of innovation to design thinking to boosting creativity. It was really a complete range of everything, and above all, of course, a degree, because I was also considering other programs, but most of the time they were certificates, and yeah.
All right, very nice. And so we've got a first question here from Matthew, who asks, what are the key area or key thematic areas the program focuses on, and how can we benefit from it? So I'll share the classes, the exact content of each class a little bit later, but broadly speaking, how would you answer this question, Rahima and Tim? So what are the key thematic areas the program focuses on, and how can you benefit from it?
I think definitely the whole program focuses on innovation, on creativity, how we build up a whole entrepreneurial mindset, skills to help us, develop a new perspective. That's it. How we can benefit from this, I think, as long as you attend the classes, you can get all the knowledge needed. But really, that's what I was mentioning just before. When I have compared the content of the OMI to other programs, for me, this one was really one of the most complete, focusing on the entrepreneurial mindset skills and on the innovation, the development of innovation, how we can boost our own creativity.
Yeah, and this is. Oops, yeah. Sorry, Rahima.
No, that's it. I was asking if Tim can.
I'm just going to expand on that, Matthew. That's a very good question, but how you're going to benefit from it is really what's your profile to begin with, because on the program we've got various profiles. So we've got participants like Rahima, who are executives working in companies and looking to be more innovative in their company. So they'll benefit from the program in that respect. And then, you've got participants like Tim, who are serial entrepreneurs and who'll benefit from the program with regards to starting their own company or making their current companies thrive and prosper. Absolutely. So that's really going to depend on, what your main objectives, your main professional objectives are. All right. We've got another question here, and please keep those questions coming. I do encourage you to share your questions with us. And this question is from Cedric, who asks, how is this program considered, viewed by recruiters? And Cedric, this is a really good question, and I had the same question actually that I was thinking of to ask Tim, because Tim is American, he's based in the United States, and so, you know, Tim, were you concerned about how this program was going to be, or were you concerned about how a degree from a European institution would be considered on the U.S. job market?
So yes and no. First of all, obviously with the focus being for me entrepreneurial, I'm most interested in what I can learn from the program and how that would benefit starting my own businesses. But you know, one of the primary discussions, Thomas Astaborough, who's the program director, always says the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that can get out there, they can work long hours, they can do all these things, but they would also feel comfortable if they had to step back and do a role in, you know, in a corporation or something like that. So I did have that concern. It was only a minor concern. I actually did talk to a recruiter, a top-level recruiter for Goldman Sachs, and she absolutely assured me that this is 100% a name in the larger companies in the U.S. that is known. But you only need a minute, 30 seconds to a minute on Google to know that this is a top-tier school. It's considered well within the top tier of schools, the first page of almost every ranking system you could look at. And again, as you start to focus on Europe, always in, you know, 1, 2, 3 spot. And again, I think that you're not going to go wrong with this program. I more importantly than how a recruiter would view it, because I think they'll view it very well, I think you'll come out of it a changed and very presentable person. Your background, your knowledge, your innovation, your drive, all of that will be on display. So I don't think there's any concern whatsoever. And just to throw in one more validation of it, my wife has an electrical engineering degree from a top tier school on the East Coast, and she immediately said, no, HEC is the Ivy League of Europe. So don't feel like I wouldn't discount this at all, and I don't think anybody else will.
And I guess, Rahima, you're in agreement with what Tim said with regards to how this program is viewed by recruiters?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're speaking about HEC. I mean, it's highly acclaimed. It's worldwide known, respected. I mean, even along the US, of course. So no, this question was not at all like a concern for me. Definitely not. I know that it can be just something very, very well viewed and respected. Yeah.
All right, very nice. So here I've just shared a little bit more information on the content of the program. So just bear in mind that you know, it has a dual format. So programs composed of 20 courses, which are broken down into two parts. Two parts: a self-paced section and a project-based section. And you'll find on this next slide the 12 self-paced courses. Now we say they're self-paced because the courses have been pre-recorded, which means you're not tied down by a particular time. So you don't have to attend at 4 p.m. every Tuesday. You can, you can visit the classes, on your lunch break or early in the morning or late at night or exclusively on weekends if, that's how you want to organize your time. So Rahima and Tim, you're currently following the self-paced courses. You'll start with the project-based courses in June. Out of these 12 self-paced courses, which ones have been your favorite so far?
I think we have enjoyed every class in a different way. I have to admit that I enjoyed so much classes like Boosting Creativity, the fifth one with Anne-Laure Cellier. I also enjoyed Organizing for Innovation with Giada and Thomas Chobloch. What else? The last one that I have just finished, the one with Sebastian Becker was also very impressive. I learned too much. It's third one, managing the performance of a growing enterprise. But I think Anne-Laure was a very, very inspirational in her way of making me travel in my own human cognitive, creative cognitive experience. I followed her after on social media. I read some of her articles. I watched her TEDx talk. She was really, really inspirational. I think she really has helped me in developing a set of strategies and tips allowing me to tackle business with a fresh perspective. Other classes are maybe more like classic, but definitely we learn new things in every class.
Yep. Yep. I would say
for innovation, but because it was really a very innovative class, very creative in the way it was, developed and taught. We were having fun, huh, Tim, during the class?
Yeah, that class is phenomenal. I imagine that will become a standard, not only probably at HEC, but at other programs, because it's just so well done. You don't miss anything from not being in a classroom with Thomas and Giada. They deliver perfectly. The other one I think that everybody has enjoyed and will enjoy is the entrepreneurship strategy, ideation to exit, because it really gives you the full spectrum of what you're getting yourself into as an entrepreneur, be it internal, entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial in your endeavor. It'll give you a good overview of the process, because it's always the same. You come up with an idea, you have to develop it, you have to scale it, you have to get it funded, and then at some point you have to exit it. At some point it's you have to let your baby grow up and do its thing. So I think that's an excellent class as well. So all of them have been enjoyable and very, very challenging and good for learning both.
Right. And you'll find really, and this is for our guests, you'll find classes here that tailor to both executives looking to be more innovative as well as entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. So, we're really targeting these three groups of individuals, and the classes are tailored for this. Let's pause a little minute because I see we've got a number of questions that are coming in. So let's try to address some of these questions. All right, so let's see. Naif has asked a question on HEC Paris is well known, but what about the master program being online? Recruiters and companies don't take online programs seriously. What about this point? And maybe I can address this question, Naif, and I'll, Tim and Rahima, feel free to add on as well. The degree that you obtain will be a master's in innovation and entrepreneurship. So the word online will not appear on your degree. So your employer or future employer doesn't need to know how you obtain this program. And just as well, even though the method of delivery is online, all the classes have been conceived by HEC Paris faculty. So the content that you get is exactly the same content as a participant would get on an on-campus program.
Yeah, and I would just, I would again back that up. I think that the notion that online delivery is not as good as in-classroom delivery is going to die very, very, very quickly. Again, classes from Stanford, from Boston University. I just saw John Hopkins has something now that's completely online. So there's not a major school that is not going in this way. And it was very similar probably to a number of years ago when universities like University of Phoenix and people like that came out. Although they were very well bashed by a number of people, you probably not even very slowly, but very rapidly saw other schools start to adopt that model. Even though while they were making fun of the model, they were actually adopting it. I imagine you're going to see more of that right now, where you're going to see more and more schools get on board with this delivery method. There's so many advantages to the university for doing it, and including increasing just the number of people that can attend it, because not everybody can attend a class every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. and have it work with their life.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even Harvard Business School, all business, all the programs are online. I mean, it's a very old-fashioned way to think that online programs are, not well perceived from recruiters, or not at all. It's that's why we are talking about innovation and, going forward, because the complete teaching way is going to be online now. And in the US mainly, because maybe the person is based in France, the person who asked the question. I think it's quite a French way of thinking, but definitely when you come to the US, everything is done online. I mean, even the biggest institutions and the most respected universities, they all go online. So I started even thinking that, big European institutions are a little bit, late compared to the US institutions in this field.
And Naif, this is a very good point. I mean, I think recruiters are more and more aware of these online learning platforms and know the quality of the programs that are delivered on them. Naif, I think you were also concerned about the tool and the platform being used for the classes. So we work in partnership with Coursera, which is a very user-friendly platform, and Rahima and Tim can attest to the fact that it is easy to use, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
It's very easy to use, and I knew coming into the program I had taken a couple courses from Stanford and Duke and a couple other of the larger universities in the U.S. and seamless. There's no issue with the platform in it. And every once in a while, just like I imagine it would happen even in classroom, if there's a glitch or anything like that, it's addressed nearly immediately.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's a program team to help you. All right, I'm just going to ask one or two questions, and we can maybe progress to the next slide so you can see the project-based courses. But I have a question here from Tim Lee, who asks, can you see this program be helpful for people pursuing social entrepreneurship or people working in the nonprofit international development sector? So my answer, Tim, is yes, absolutely. This can be relevant to people working in nonprofit or social entrepreneurship. And in fact, on the program, we have social entrepreneurs. We even have, as you can see, well, maybe you can't see so well here, but the last class in the self-paced portion is social entrepreneurship and change making. And Rahima and Tim, you can probably attest to and maybe give a little bit more information on this class.
It was an amazing class. We spoke of this last time, Tim, you remember? Definitely this class was like very, very inspirational. And yes, of course, if you work on any social entrepreneurship, this is the class to take, absolutely. And the whole program, you can learn so many things. I know that even for the degree portion, some peers, entrepreneurs, are working on social entrepreneurship programs, projects. So it's really, really something very relevant. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think I definitely would support what Rahima says there. There's at least 3 to 5 or 6 people that I know of directly that have social entrepreneurship programs. And again, I think there's something about this program in general that has a very social entrepreneurship leaning, because it's opening access to people that wouldn't have access to this quality of a program. So I think in general, the whole program fits along the line of social entrepreneurship. And I think you would, I have a very strong background in nonprofit executive leadership. And I think that I would have benefited years ago from this. And I think you would benefit as well.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so let's move on to the next courses. Oops, sorry. Which are the project-based courses. So the project-based courses are slightly different from the self-paced courses. They have not been pre-recorded, and they run on a 6-month fixed schedule. Now, the advantage, so the disadvantage is that you do need to attend at a fixed time, let's say 4 p.m. every Tuesday. But the advantage is that there are live courses, so you can get the immediate feedback from professors. You can ask your questions while the professor is lecturing and get the professor's immediate feedback. So Rahima and Tim have not yet started these project-based courses. They'll be starting in June 2018. But maybe you can share with us those classes that you're looking forward to following in this part of the program.
Well, for me, again, I do have some finance background, but I think the two that are most interesting to me are the entrepreneurial finance and private equity, because again, I think my longer term aspirations are larger enterprises. So I think those two would be very important, but there's not a single thing in here that I wouldn't be excited or thrilled to go through. I think they're all very good classes if you read the description of them. How about you, Rahima?
Design thinking. Because for me, even if we have had like some prerequisites during the certificate portion, because a lot of classes we dealt with design thinking, but it's definitely this thing I'm so excited about, because that's what I was looking forward when applying into the program. You know, the whole skill to enhance my ability to see things differently and solve, you know, things in a different way. Yeah, it's definitely this one. I do also agree on the private equity and venture capital, because I think this one can be useful in every field. So, exactly.
Very nice. So Nate, you asked a question with regards to, is it all pre-recorded on Coursera? No, part 1 is pre-recorded and part 2, those are live webinars. All right, let's take a couple more questions here from some of our participants. So Norman asks, I would like to know how many third world country students are currently enrolled on the program. So that's a really good question. Actually, on the program, there are participants from about 22 different countries. So it's a very international cohort with participants coming from the United States, from China, from Africa, a number from Europe as well, a number also of expatriates. So, you know, Americans living in Africa, or French individuals living in the United States or in Eastern Europe. We also have a couple Chinese on the program. So yes, we do have participants from other nations, and maybe you find that useful already, Rahima and Tim.
I think so too. I mean, I don't know if you have any deeper comment on that, Rahima, but it's definitely been beneficial just for different cultures and different experiences.
It's a real melting pot, of course. It's very exciting to be part of this cohort, really, because it's so international. And we can meet people. Yeah, I know I have made some friends. I mean, even if it's online, but it's really like pen pals. Yeah. So.
All right. So let's progress to the next slide. So here's the format, and some of you had some questions I see in the chat box, and I do thank you for sharing your questions throughout this webinar. So this program, as I mentioned, there are two parts. There is the self-paced courses, and then there are the project-based courses. We're currently recruiting for the May 15th intake, and actually the deadline to apply is next Tuesday, the 3rd of April. And those participants who join on the 15th of May will be able to graduate in June 2019. Now, mind you, if you join on the 15th of May, you'll have 7 months to complete the self-paced courses and 6 months to complete the project-based courses. Now, during this time frame, the 7-month time frame to complete the self-paced courses, you'll need to take at least 2 courses per month and devote a minimum of 10 hours per week for these self-paced courses. And for the project-based courses, you'll need to devote about between 10 and 15 hours in order to complete the program in time and graduate in June 2019. So this is an important part of the program because the first part is self-paced. You don't have, you're not tied down by a particular time, which is very convenient. You can study when you want, but it also entails self-commitment and organization. So Tim, Rahima, can you both share how you've organized your time to fit in these self-paced courses?
Well, Rahima's the organized one, so let's start with her.
Well, you passed the exams, which is not my case. No, yeah, Elizabeth, it's exactly as you have just said. It's a matter of organizing. It's a matter of organizations, of course. It's nobody has to neglect the time needed to study. I mean, even during this self-paced portion, which lasts, we have 12 courses to finish up to 7 months. So it's not too much, and it's not enough. For me, it's just the right time. It's enough. I mean, unless you have to dedicate up to, I would say, even up to 12 hours per week. Because people work. Sometimes we have some busy days, some other times less. And depending on the personality of each of us and, our strengths and weaknesses, maybe some people will spend like 9-10 hours and others up to 15. Some classes will definitely ask you for some more time, like the IP law for myself. For my case, there are really 2 classes which were asking me a lot of time. So the only advice I would give you, whenever you have time, spare it for studies. As long as you are sure that you are going to do this program, whenever you have time, you spare for studies and you do your peer assignments. Because, the classes last, every class from the certificate portion, of course, lasts 1 month. And every week we have 1 peer assignment to submit before Sunday. And we've got graded quizzes. So it's not like, oh, it's a self-paced, so okay, I'll have time to start this next month or the other day, or no, whenever you have time, just do the classes, because really it's not too much. It's just what you will need. Me, what I was doing is like, I was always dedicating time early in the morning and late in the evening. And then, I try to submit the quizzes and to work on them on weekends. The quizzes and the peer assignments, of course.
And Tim, we have a question here from Diana, which I think is interesting. How much time did you or do you devote to the program each week? And has it been more or less than what you initially expected?
Well, it's interesting. That's a very hot topic, I think, in general in our cohort. It's more, and it's a lot of it is about managing your own time and your own energy. Certain people do very well with loading up all of their work at the very end. That tends to be my way of doing things. I don't recommend it, but that's why I say Rahima is probably the best person for this question. But I would definitely say that it's more time than you would expect, which is almost deceiving in a way, because this is a top tier school. So what would you expect from a workload? I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, and you're going to get a lot out of it as a result. And it probably it brings up my number one tip on this is, if you think you're going to do this, do it in May. Do not wait till July or August or September. Don't impose a time restriction on yourself that's unnecessary. Please, please, please start in May, no later than June. I mean, it's not to say that you couldn't jump in July, August, but I don't know when the actual final cutoff is, but you will serve yourself very well to decide if you think you're going to do it and jump in May, because May will give you enough time to get, even if you're a very disciplined person, it'll give you enough time to find out what discipline you need. Because again, I think as Rahima very astutely pointed out, different courses require different amounts of work, and it'll surprise you. It's not the same for everybody. You might have some familiarity with IP law, so that might be a very easy course for you, whereas you've never maybe written a poem in your life, and you may struggle with the boosting creativity course. So it really comes down to kind of knowing your own study strategy and study style, and then working your way into it. But again, the best thing you can do is decide if you're going to do it and get in as early as you can to give yourself some time.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because indeed the very last cohort will be on the 15th of August, but then you'll need to study 4 classes per month. So that's a big commitment. That's about 15 to 20 hours per week. So I can only agree with you there, Tim. Start early, and this gives you time to get organized and to find your rhythm. All right, we've got many things because we've got a ton of questions here. So we've got a question here from Hirofumi, who asks, during the second part, at what time are the synchronized classes held? So Hirofumi, the synchronized classes, the live classes, will be held at different times, depending on which professor is going to be teaching. But the times will vary, so anytime between 2 and 6 p.m. Paris time, so that we can really address all the time zones, so that participants living in Asia can attend the live events just like someone living in the United States. And mind you, these live classes will be recorded, so if for any reason you cannot attend the live session, you can view it afterwards. All right. Okay, we've got many great questions. All right. Question from Gurmeet saying, what is the ratio of people applying for the master's and getting accepted or admitted to the degree? Well, Gurmeet, we don't keep track of that, but we are selective. And I'll share with you in a little bit the admissions process. Just bear in mind that we have eligibility criteria, which are you should have at least 5 years of professional experience, ideally in management position, but that's not mandatory. You should hold at least a bachelor's degree, and you should be proficient in English. Now, sometimes the admissions jury does admit participants who don't hold these eligibility criteria, but those participants are really convincing and are able to explain convincingly why this program would assist them in furthering their career, be it as an executive or be it as an entrepreneur. All right, let's see, do we have any further questions? All right, Thea asks, when does the next cohort start after May? Thea, we have cohorts each month. So after May, there'll be a cohort on the 15th of June, on the 15th of July, and the last cohort to graduate in June 2019 will be the 16th of August. But as Tim said, the earlier you apply and the earlier you get started, the more time you have to devote to these classes and to complete them comfortably. All right. So Tim, you were wanting me to explain the intake cycle, so I've just done that. So 1 intake per month, and so it takes us about 6 weeks to process applications. Let's move on to the next slide. And this next slide is with regards to the assessments. So Rahima and Tim, you shared a little bit about what's expected and how you're evaluated on the program. Rahima, you took some of the proctored exams. Can you share your experience on the proctored exams?
No, Tim did. Sorry.
Sorry, Tim. Apologies.
So the proctored exams are they're tough. So they're a culmination of 4 classes. There are three of those total, and they are what count as your actual grade. So you're doing all this coursework that leads up to it, that has a variety of quizzes and peer graded assignments. And rightly, the peer-graded assignments are very heavily weighted in the course portion of that. But as with any overall overarching assessment, the quizzes start to factor into judging your knowledge of what you've learned. And you wouldn't necessarily go through a comprehensive on 4 classes where you'd have to work out tremendously long problems on them. What they're doing is making sure that you have grasped an understanding of that you can carry forward into the project portion of it. There's nothing difficult about setting up the proctored exams. The criteria for doing it is not significantly different than what you needed to do for this webinar. The technology it's actually very slick. The whole thing works very, very well. The proctored exams, though, really, again, they're the culmination of the 4 courses you've taken in that individual exam group. And it's very important that you've done all your coursework. You've attended the lectures, you've completed the peer assessments, but not only your own peer work, but the assessments of the other people. Because again, sometimes you think maybe you've come up with the best solution, and you'll actually learn a lot from grading other people's assignments. So proctored exams are tough, but they're not so tough that if you do your coursework that you won't have success.
And I do apologize because, thanks, Tim, I forgot sort of to share with our guests the assessment. So in each course, you'll have quizzes, you'll have peer evaluations, and as Rahima said, expect to have 1 peer evaluation per week.
Yep.
And then on the master's, so you'll have 11 proctored exams, so 3 during the self-paced section, basically 1 proctored exam after every 4 course. And you can take all 12 courses and then decide to take the proctored exams. You can organize yourself like that, or you can take the 4 courses in the scaling up section and then take the proctored exam. And then there'll be 8 exams in the project-based section, so 1 exam after each course. And one important part of the program is that you'll need to submit a team project in order to graduate. Rahima, do you have some ideas at this point of what kind of team project you'd like to work on?
Well, to be honest, not yet. The only thing that I know is that some of my peers, as I have said previously, some of my peers, entrepreneurs, are developing amazing things in Africa, like biodynamic farms, and I would love to take part on such projects. Yeah, I think we haven't spoken about this yet. We are going to be teamed up, so we can share the same professional objectives for 6 months. So yeah, definitely a social entrepreneurship project will be something that I will be very interested in working on. Yeah.
And how about you, Tim?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I started the program with, I guess, a pipeline of projects. One that was entrepreneurial, and 3 or so that were entrepreneurial, spread out over a period of time. And because of some things that have changed here at work, and some things that have maybe changed in the world a little bit, my focus has really started to shift. And a lot of that shift, although there is the environmental factors that I just mentioned, a lot of the shift actually is coming from the coursework itself. Mm-hmm. Again, thinking about the social entrepreneurship, none of my ideas were necessarily social in the classic sense. But what it's done is it's really forced me to think about, if you're going to structure a business to change the world in one form or another, which is the point of a business, to do it better, faster, smarter, whatever the case may be, how you do it and who you do it with are very important, and that's a very social part of it. You know, there's so many things going on in the world that thinking about that, the way the program has made me start to think about how we're going to get there and how we're going to get these things done has really changed a lot for me. So I'm narrowed down to a project, and I'm hoping that I can convince some very good people to get on board with it. And I think it'll become more clear here, as Rahima mentioned, in the next few weeks as we start to meet up and talk about it. But it's going to be a very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting 6 months, because when I came into the program, I don't think it's important to get my project done. It really isn't. Any project that gets done will be fine, because you're going to learn the skills in the process of doing that. And I think if your project isn't the one that's picked, it won't hurt you. It's not going to set you back anything. You're still going to learn, and you're still going to come out of this probably one of the best entrepreneurs probably in the world. And I think that this program and the projects that come out of it are actually going to boost interest, continue to boost interest in the program itself, because I think in the US and around the world, the format of this is going to yield projects that are going to make people know the name of HEC, and in particular this program, because again, it's incredible. The amount of knowledge and stretching that has already happened and been imparted to us is incredible. So I'm looking forward to that phase very much.
All right, lovely. And Gurmeet Singh had a question, another question. It was a little earlier on, but I thought I'd wait until this slide to address your question. So Gurmeet, you asked, in the project-based section, do you get a chance to build a product from ground up, from idea to minimum viable product? Well, Gurmeet, as Tim was sharing, it's a team project. So it's going to involve your negotiation skills, right? So you'll need to pitch your idea to the group. So if you've got an idea about building a product, you'll need to pitch that idea to the group, and then hopefully you get 2 or 3 other people on board, and you're able to develop that project during the team project. All right, just another question from Gurmeet. On average, how much time every week do you spend on the first section of the program, and how many months did it take you to complete? I forget if we addressed this question. Rahima, how much time on average did you spend each week on the program? On the first part?
Yeah, for me it was 10 to 12.
Okay.
That's the average I spent on the certificate classes.
Okay.
Then I don't know if because we have been in the first cohort of the program, or if it's going to be like this all the time, because we haven't had access to the full 12 classes at the same time. So classes were put online, by batches of 3, which was quite, it was good for us actually to get organized, because I don't know if now the classes are just going to be online at the same time, probably. Yeah.
Well, the classes are all available at the same time, but we recommend students select classes that they want to be working on. So they could select all 12 classes, but knowing that these classes run on a 4-week schedule, that would mean a lot of emails saying, hey, you've got this assignment due on Monday. Hey, you've got this assignment due on Monday. So we don't recommend it, following all 12 classes at the same time, but rather selecting those classes that you want to start with. So,
yeah, that's it.
And I agree with Rahima. I think that starting out with all 12 of them available and kind of laying out your own course progression will be a big benefit to the second cohort. We are, I don't know, adventurers together in this as the course has been put together. It did come out to us in pieces and parts. But Rahima, just to clarify for everybody, that was about 2 courses at a time, right? Your workload?
No, 3. For me, I was doing the 3. Whenever they were available, I started doing the 3. Except I must admit, I must confess, during Christmas season, I needed to switch session, which is normal. Yeah, no,
I switched sessions a couple of times, and I would say probably, I would agree with you. Probably 3 classes, 12, 15 hours some weeks if there's a lot going on. The biggest thing on that, again, I think comes back to you have to manage your energy and your time, understand how the courses are graded, understand how the courses work, and very importantly, understand kind of what you want to take out of a course from a knowledge standpoint. I mean, I can think of a project in boosting creativity that I spent 6 or 7 hours on just because I was very interested in it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it comes down to what you're personally doing. So if you're in a time crunch, there may just be weeks where all you can do is you do the videos, you knock out the peer graded assessment, and you take the quiz and you get whatever passing grade that is and accept it. There are other weeks where I've gone back and taken the quiz twice just to get a better grade, because I also wanted to just to make sure I understood what it was about. So it's really it's somewhat dependent upon you. But again, the number one piece of advice: if you start early, you can do it 2 classes at a time, which can get you down to probably 8 to 10 hours a week, and that's certainly very manageable.
Yeah, that is very manageable. All right, lovely, thanks. So thank you very much for sharing all your questions. I realize we might not be able to address every single question that you have. But don't worry, I'll follow up with you to make sure that all your questions are answered. Let's just see. There is an interesting question here. Let's see. I think it was from. Yes, from Cedric, and this is an interesting question. He says, on the aspect of community behind this online program, do you find it useful? Do you benefit from the existing alumni? So these are 2 questions, really, with regards to the online community first, maybe.
Yeah, so I think the online community is, it goes back to exactly back to our last set of comments, which is, it's about you managing your energy. There's a forum for this discussion, and we've had some additional cohort discussions about opening up other forums. And we think that given the workload, the forum Slack is the one that we're going to try to stay with the most. There is a tremendous sense of community. And you have to balance that with, in general, we all are under a time constraint. It's not only as part of this program, but just in general in life, there's so many distractions, so many things going on. But you absolutely benefit from community. You automatically click with people. And particularly once you get into a forum where you're able to video chat or able to talk with somebody, you really start to understand, people that you can work with, and people that you could see as support, and people, again, something that I think of is, again, my project's probably less socially driven. Initially, there are definitely some aspects of it that are, but I can look at the work that my colleagues are doing and have tremendous respect for them, and think that, if I'm in a position to support that in any way, I would do it, because they're tremendous people trying to do tremendous work, and you'll immediately get that sense of camaraderie. And I think that the opportunity is also there to carry that into the alumni. And I think we'll start to see more of that influence as we go into the project phase as well, because then we're going to start to be working on a much more personal level.
Yes, and your mentors on the team project, some of them might be alumni from HEC Paris. So sort of leading the way towards, the alumni community. But yes, that's an important point. There is a community where you can get support. So there's an online forum where you can get support from your peers as well as from the program managers. Maybe Rahima, you want to share your experience with the online forum?
Yeah, well, just as Tim said, we also use this Slack application where we can share, everything. I mean, of course, it's all about the OMI program, so we are in real contact with the program managers, with all our peers, but you can launch any thread discussion you want. I mean, we speak about our hobbies, we share articles on the web. I know some of our peers based in Paris have already been out for hanging out. We are a little bit far away, so we could not be part of this, but I know that Aude, one of our peers, was even speaking about hanging out online. So of course, there is a very active online community, which is very available and very insightful. So yeah.
And absolutely, once you graduate, you gain access to the alumni community like any other participant on our on-campus programs. So you benefit from those resources as well as from other resources which we offer as well to on-campus participants, the library. You can also come to campus and access our career services, and some of our career services are also available online. They do a number of webinars, so you've got that available as well. All right, we've got a couple more minutes left, so let me just quickly address the application process. Some of you had some questions about the application process. Some of you were wondering about alternative applications, so you can indeed start with the online certificate. So start with the self-paced courses, and you'll simply need to register for that. Or you can start directly and apply directly for the online Masters in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So just make sure you complete the 7 essays, you submit 2 recommendation forms, an English test, and a 3-minute video pitch. And maybe Rahima and Tim, you can give some tips on how to ace your online Masters application?
Maybe the most challenging thing is about the pitch. Of course, it's always very, it's not an easy exercise, but you can do it. You can do it again, and you can ask for some advice. You can have your family as your audience, and of course, it's you will be able to do it. There's no need to go, to the details and talk for like 7. I think the video asks just 3 minutes.
3 minutes, correct, yeah.
Very enough, exactly what are your professional background, what are you aiming to go to, and what are your expectations from the program, and motivations mainly. So yeah, of course, the first time you will not be happy about what you have presented, and then you can do another test. And I'm pretty sure for myself it was 4 tentative. So yeah, that's it. The other, I think it's a very basic application, and it's very, very fair, very affordable, because, the GMAT, they are not requested. The English test, I bet everybody has one. Now, every businessman or woman has an English test. So it's really not something, very, it's very fair, it's very basic, and it's your reach. It's in your reach. So,
it is within your reach, and within a week you can have it completed, so relatively quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think that it's the beginning of the learning process, really. I mean, so even if you apply and for whatever reason decided not to do it, you'll learn something just from doing the application, because you're asked some questions about yourself and to think about some things maybe you haven't thought about in a while. The pitch itself, absolutely, I think is critical. I think it's your opportunity to summarize who you are, why this is important to you. The other thing I would just strongly recommend is on your recommendation forms, for the couple of people that do those for you, really make sure that you give them an understanding of kind of what you're trying to accomplish. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and say, okay, here's my idea to change the world X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case may be. But I just give them a flavor of, hey, this is why this is important to me, so that comes through when they submit their recommendations, because you really want them to talk about how you've been innovative and how they think you can be innovative and how that you would benefit from the program. And giving them a little coaching on that is certainly not inappropriate. In fact, would be very appropriate. So video pitch and recommendations, I definitely would say spend some time on those.
Thank you very much. All right, I see questions are still coming in. So let me just move to the next slide. So you've got my contact information, and you can jot it down while we answer just 1 or 2 more questions before we sign off. And one question which several of you have asked is with regards to funding. Is the payment of the program flexible? And is there any fund support or sponsorship? So this is a question from Samuel, but other people have asked the same question. So Samuel, we do have payment facilities. So once you're admitted onto the program, you can pay in up to 4 installments. So you can spread the payment in 4 installments due over a period of 8 months. We don't offer any scholarships, but if you're based in the United States, you could find funding options, notably with Sallie Mae loans. And certainly, you can also speak with your employer, as this program is, notably cheaper than an executive MBA, and you might get sponsorship from your employer. All right. I think we have covered a lot of the questions, and as I said earlier, I will be touching base with you shortly. I'll be sending you the webinar replay, and I'll make sure to touch base with you as well very shortly to answer those last questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Rahima and Tim, thank you very much for sharing your insights and your experience with our participants. And guests, thank you very much for attending today. And I look forward to keeping in touch with all of you, and I hope to hear from you. Feel free to jot down all my information as well as my colleague Maria's information. So thanks once again, and have a great evening if you're based in Paris or in Asia, or Europe or in Asia, and have a lovely day ahead if you are in the United States or in the Americas. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.